Hello, everyone. My name is Joan Kaler. Welcome to Freedom from Fear. Just tap it. I'm thrilled that you are with me tonight. I'm thrilled for all my followers. Thank you so much for anyone who's listening, anyone who's watching, who are following me on my podcasts, this one and Life Without Limits. Welcome to all. Tonight, or now, I want to discuss what emotional freedom techniques are. I haven't gone through that yet. Since this podcast is specifically about tapping your fear, I want to explain just what tapping is. Tapping, or emotional freedom techniques, or EFT, is a system of tapping on acupressure points on our body to release stuck, limiting beliefs and negative emotions. This system was created by Gary Craig back in 1993. It's a hybrid of thought field therapy created by Dr. Roger Callahan back in the 80s. EFT, emotional freedom techniques, are organic in that they have grown into a system based in ancient Chinese medicine that continues to help people around the world today. I am a trainer of EFT. I use EFT with my clients. In my practice, I speak on it. I consult on it. EFT is in my blood because it is evidence-based, and most of the time it is very helpful. Let's discuss specifically what EFT is. As I mentioned, it is a system of techniques. It is not just EFT, emotional freedom technique, singular. It is a system of tapping, stimulating acupressure points on the head, the face, below the collarbone, and underneath the arms. When we have a thought that we don't want, that we fear, an unwanted thought, an unwanted image, a belief pattern that doesn't work for us, a limiting belief, as in, I do not deserve success, it is not possible to succeed, I don't want to succeed, and it's not safe to succeed. All these are global resistances or global limiting beliefs that affect our ability to make decisions and move forward in our life. These can all be tapped on. Let me take you through specifically the points. Now, these are all based on acupuncture, but we don't use needles. The points are the top of the head, the beginning of the eyebrows by the bridge of the nose, the end point of the eyebrow right in the corner of the eyes, under the occipital bone of the eye on the cheek, under the nose, middle of the chin in the crease, then go 2 inches down from the base of your throat and 1 inch over both directions below the corner bone, the corners of the collarbone rather, tapping there. What I like to do is I actually like to cross my hands over and tap beneath the corners of my collarbone, and then even go back and forth. This is a brain balancing technique that's really helpful, going back and forth. And finally, under the arm, under the armpit on the side of the body, you can either hug yourself or do the chicken dance to reach that particular point under the arms. These points are the end points of the meridians of the body, which the ancient Chinese found over 5,000 years ago. When you have the end points on the top of the skin, and then you stimulate them through tapping or through touch and breathe, that sends a very subtle electrical current down through that meridian or electrical pathway that clears that energy of the limiting belief or the negative emotion or the trauma and clears it out. I know this sounds almost too simplistic for those who are not familiar with EFT, although there are over 40 controlled double-blind studies of emotional freedom technique. I have found this clinically in my practice to be extremely effective for removing the trigger, the emotional intensity of a trauma, the emotional intensity of fear, anger, grief. Let's see what else we've got. Anxiety, guilt. Any emotion that a human being has can be treated with emotional freedom techniques. It's a beautiful, elegant, clean system that when used effectively goes a long way to create the emotional balance that people need in their lives. General tapping, known as global tapping, is a wonderful technique for removing the everyday stress that we have in our lives. Simply by thinking of our day and the stress, the people that we've talked to, the problems that we've solved or problems that remain unsolved, simply by thinking of the stress that we've experienced during our day and tapping on these points will calm the amygdala, lower the cortisol, removing the stress. Thereby, we can think of the situation or the person and not be triggered emotionally or viscerally, feeling it in our bodies. I love emotional freedom techniques. I just think it's an incredible system. I will refer to this time and time again in future podcasts, in that there is a difference between global tapping and specific tapping. Everything you see on YouTube, everything you see in this podcast, everything you hear in this podcast is global tapping because I don't know you yet. Unless a trained practitioner knows the individual with whom they are working, they cannot do specific tapping because they don't know the individual's situation. Only when working with a person one-on-one can a practitioner or therapist do specific tapping with an individual. I really want to make that point very clear. Okay. That specific tapping is specific to the individual circumstances, situations, traumas, and events in your life. That's what makes it so beautiful. When I know you, I can create a specific setup statement just for you that will go a long way towards removing the negative emotion or limiting belief that's causing you to sabotage your life. That's why I love specific tapping. I wanted to create this podcast to introduce what emotional freedom techniques are and talk a little bit about specific tapping. You can always go to my YouTube channel to learn more, as I have invited guests come in and talk about tapping. That's what I've loved doing over the past year and a half. Emotional freedom techniques being a system of tapping techniques, not simply just tapping on the points. That's only part of it. When we do trauma work on what we call little t's and big T's, we do tapping to clear the trauma, the intensity of the trauma. We also use what's called 3 major points. We use testing, we use tell the story, and we use the movie technique. And movie technique and telling the story are also forms of testing. Plus, a 6-month and a 1-year follow-up. This is how we know that EFT has been successfully used to remove the trauma and the intensity in a person's unique situation. That is what emotional freedom techniques are. That is why I wanted to have this podcast to explain them to you more in detail. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen because I want to share with you the tapping points. There used to be, back in the day when Gary Craig created EFT, there were over 14 tapping places plus brain balancing, which are all still fine. You can use them if you know that system. But we have really simplified tapping, so to speak. The clue that I have spoken on is that it has to be specific. Just using 9 points and being specific, you can really get to the root cause of the problem, whatever it might be. Let me share my screen with you right now. Okay, here we go. And now we're going to share. And now I'm going to make this large. So here we go. Here are the points. I wanted to show you this map so you could not only see me demonstrate it, but you could have a visual map of exactly where the points are. Okay. You'll also see that there is a point on the back of the wrist and a point between the little finger and the ring finger on the back of the hand. And this is known as the gamut spot. And I think it's really, really important. This photo graphic shows it as, let's see, the side of the hand, but I will also refer to it. The side of the hand is where we definitely start to use the setup statement, tapping the side of the hand while saying, even though I feel this about that, and I feel it in this part of my body, I deeply and completely accept myself. That's the setup statement that we use to bring up that file in our subconscious brain that we want to work on. Then what I like to do is to wait till the subjective units of distress on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being no distress, 10 being the most distress. When the SUDS level or subjective units of distress get to, say, a 3 or below, what we can do now is we can tap on the back of the hand at what's known as the gamut spot. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now so you can see this. Okay. The gamut spot is right on the back of the hand here between the little finger and the ring finger. We tap on it when we feel it lower, the stress level lower to a 3. And then I say, when it feels like a 2, let me know. And then we continue tapping on the back of the hand, on the gamut spot, also known as the triple warmer or the thyroid meridian, until it feels like a 2, which is usually less than a minute. And then I say, okay, tell me when it's a 1. And we continue tapping until we feel the stress level go down to a 1. And then I say, tell me when it feels like a 0. And yes, the stress level then goes down to a 0, meaning a person does not have any reaction, any trigger. They have no physical sensation, no emotional intensity on the topic whatsoever, on the situation that created the stress. And that is how I work with my clients, clearing their distress over an event, a trauma, an unhappy situation, a limiting belief, whatever it is that bothers you can be tapped out. Hence, freedom from fear, just tap it. I thank you so much for listening and watching this podcast. If you feel it's been helpful, please share it. Please rate it on iTunes. Please contact me if you are interested in having a tapping session. I would love to help you release your negative thoughts and emotions that aren't working for you. And please go to my website, tappingwithjoan.com. Browse my courses on Udemy. They're all there to help you live a better life. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching.